contributors on GitHub and everywhere else. And I would like to address it, acknowledge all those conversations.
Can you pause it because everything is on?
Oh no, close. Okay. Oh my God. Merci. We're such rookies. So this is going to be a very intense hour because we need to cover a lot of things. And I'm going to try not to talk too fast, but fast enough so they can take over. So first item on our agenda is about the SIP process. So this is something that everybody was asking, where do we stand, what's happening, why are we so sneaky, and so on. So we are not sneaky. We are a lot of very busy people trying to navigate huge change in this crazy nice language that I'm so happy this whole week is full of thank yous everywhere on Twitter. So like it's good to see this positive support. What has been happening, so in November 2018, the SIP committee decided to accept the Dotty team proposal of changes. So up until that point, the process was somewhat straightforward. There was one proposal or pre-proposal, and then a proposal, and then a discussion, and then a decision. And at this point, the one proposal was a bunch of proposals that we decided to embark on that journey, but it takes way more time than it would like it was before. So we decided to start this, and we are discovering the process as we are doing it. So so that's one side of the story. The other side of the story is that on the way, we also saw a couple of things that we should change in the process itself, in writing as well. And we need to, I need to personally, apologize for a couple of things. So we need to do better on tracking the SIPs and making sure that we are closing or discussion on some of them. So this is something that Dale brought up as well. And that I said, let's put a date on it. So by March 2020, we should have all the previous SIPs done. So that's one thing. Second thing that we need to do better is change a part of the process. We still don't know how, but and please mute yourself, selves. Yeah, somebody has a window open. So the second thing is to change a part of the process. So this is a concept. We did not make any decisions yet, but from when you write a pre-SIP type of a thing to already find a champion or something like this. Sebastien can speak about it more, or we can write about it a bit later, so that the person that is actually writing a SIP has the wind in their back and doesn't have the situation again from investing all this time and not actually being heard or being pushed away because of different changes, so we don't get to disappoint people. So we will figure out how to do that. There's this champion type of thing that might be working because it's working in JS. Yeah. So we will see but something needs to be done in that regard, because disappointing people is really the last thing any one of us wants to do. And so tracking, championing, and I think that's that. And in the end, if we do see that some things are really not picking up, to address them, and if need be, close them rather than just keep them lingering. So these are the things that I wanted to address that have to do with the SIP process. I already spoke about it in different chat rooms, so you know more or less what's happening. So that was the first part. If there are any questions, I'm happy to answer. And if there is something that I didn't mention, let me know.
You have to keep in mind that there's a delay of a little bit.
Yeah. Okay. So we will. So that was no question for now. But in any case, you know where to find me. Ping me. Ask me. This is an open conversation. I'm personally sorry for not doing a better job, but at the same time, I know I'm going to cry.
You're doing a good
job. But no, it's tough to see everybody not everybody disappointed. Okay, so that's one. next thing in that category is Dotty feature freeze. So I would just give Martin or Guillaume to give a little summary. What is it, Dotty feature freeze? Why did you give a delay of 6 weeks? What does that impact? Just like, yeah.
So yeah, as announced about a month ago, at the on the contributors forum, we are planning to feature freeze Dotty with the next release, which will be in a couple of weeks now. You can check the milestones on GitHub to verify that. Which means that like we are like really wanting to stop adding new stuff all the time and more like refining existing stuff that has been proposed before. That does not mean that you cannot like make new SIP, but it means that we might not really have like we're probably not going to be part of Scala 3.0 if you make a SIP now, even if we find the time to discuss it, which might be hard because there's a lot of things on our backlogs that we need to discuss. There's a very good chance it might still not make it into 3.0 because we are trying to be somewhat serious about feature freezing and not adding new stuff if we're not really sure we need to add it to release 3.0. So really the priority for the Dotty team is to stabilize and actually make a compiler that people can use.
Okay. Thank you. We are still like waiting for some questions but that's, yeah, those are the two important things. And as you all know, things are changing more rapidly than we can schedule meetings and discuss about them. So please bear with us when we are communicating in different ways, and we will try to do better, as I said. So this brings me to the third point that has to do with the meta discussion, and that is that going forward, the SIP committee will be focusing on discussing all the features and voting on them. Currently, we are trying to see the best approach to structure the discussion because there are a lot of different features, and we need to see which ones we really need to attack first, second, third, and that's going to also depend on the release plan and so forth. So as of December, you can expect to have Dotty feature discussions and votes and so forth. So those are like the important points that have to do with the SIP committee, the process, the role, what are the next steps. So now we are going into a second part of the meeting, which has to do with actual technical discussions about features. And there are two features that are important to speak about publicly. We did speak about them last meeting when we had the closed session. And there was an argument, oh, well, now you have formed opinions, so like who cares? But it's really not how it works.
We've agreed to reset our brains.
How it actually works is that it's better if there is a pre-discussion so people can structure their thoughts. So when we go public, they can be more eloquent about it, and the arguments can be clear. So I am allocating about, 20 minutes on this, but you will see the raw opinions because, even if it was public, what would you do if with us forming opinions, like asking us questions? So it's fine. And anyway, we didn't go deeply in it, so you will have your raw experience of live streaming our thoughts about XML literals and
Fascinating
so on.
stuff.
Yeah. So I'm going to let Sebastien the word, and after that, if we have time, Guillaume is just going to touch upon the revised implicits and tell us what's the status and what is the overall plan. So I'm going off camera. Thank you very much.
Do you want to check any questions on YouTube first, or
let's see if there are any questions.
No questions.
Okay. SIP, I don't know how many, carried forward. So here, basically, the proposal is an alternative way to debugger or type check variadic arguments. So that's when you give an arbitrary number of arguments to a method. As you know, currently in Scala, that's possible if you declare the method with a var parameter, which is colon int star or t star, and that debuggers into a seek of t. So at call site, we create basically an immutable array seek that we pass in, and at the definition side, we use the var as a seek. That has two disadvantages that this highlights. One is you only get to have one type for all the arguments. So if you have an int and a string and a foo, the best you can do is infer a generic type parameter to be any, and then you might lose some opportunity to type check more accurately some things. It's especially relevant if you accompany your arguments with an implicit type class for set things. So if you widen string boolean and foo to any, then you need a my type class of any, which you might not have. But if you don't widen it, then you might have a my type class of int, a my type class of string, and a my type class of foo available. So that's one aspect. The other aspect is wrapping things in a seek and then unwrapping them can have performance impact. And so this set proposes to have a builder kind of API for varargs. The syntax, the precise syntax names and things like that, I don't think we should discuss right now, but basically the idea is you have an apply begin that starts a vararg, and then for each vararg we call apply next chains, so as in a builder style. So every apply next receives one argument, and potentially it has an implicit time class for that thing. And then at the end we have an apply end that closes the list, and the builder can expand it to its result. So that's the idea. The argument being, well, with apply next you can have a different type every time, and with the potentially the builder, if it does its job correctly, can directly build the underlying whatever thing that it wants to build instead of going through a seek, then deconstructing the seek and producing the so
techniques of inline meta programming, but I believe it's possible. So, given the belief it's possible, I don't really think we should burn it into the language. I have the other issue with it, possible issue. So basically, it gives us yet another way we would treat an application.
Yeah, we have too many of those.
We already have quite a few. Be very careful. If one is not careful, then one gets a combinatorial explosion immediately. So I give you one example right now. The proposals as well, if it has members begin and next, I'm fairly sure that the next wish afterwards would be, well, can't we provide these things begin and next by an implicit decorator or by something else? And once you do that, once you give into that, you have made application just twice combinatorial explosion. You have made it much more expensive, much slower to parse. So it looks super innocuous to do this sort of things, and it could be really bad. So for those two reasons, why I said I believe we can do it with metaprogramming, and two, it looks really sort of could have very bad consequences if we did it in a compiler. I said let's first try to do it with metaprogramming.
Anyone else wants to say something about that?
Yeah.
Yep.
Poor microphone. Yeah, I agree with what Martin said. In particular, I'd say that anything that interacts with overloading is scary because overloading is so crazy complicated to implement efficiently in the compiler. And we are like there's already like bugs in Dotty, and I'm pulling my hair out related to that, so I don't want to add more interactions if possible. And so Martin mentioned that some of the more advanced stuff could probably be done with metaprogramming, but I think for the simple cases where you just want variable arguments of multiple different types, I think you can just use union types and have a repeated argument of a union type in Dotty, and that already covers some of the somewhat simple stuff you want to do. Like I think the example from the C proposal was something related to XML where you can have like nodes and elements and stuff, and I think you could handle that with like a union, a repeated argument of a union would be pretty straightforward. So I will consider doing that before adding, before doing the metaprogramming stuff. I think one of the concerns in the thread was, well, but if we use macros or shapers or something, it's going to be slow. So that might be the case, but first we should see if we can do it without that, and then we should actually measure this stuff, and not jump straight to actually adding a feature to the language, which would be the last resort.
It's also not that clear that putting it in the compiler would make it faster.
Yeah, we are just going to make the compiler slow for everyone, then we can confirm. If we make it overloading, yeah.
Spec that needs to be in the Scala spec.
Okay, we need to stop because they say it's